Chris Lato. Welcome to Lato Files.
Welcome, everyone. This is J. Allen Hynek, 1985, from Runa. This is Project Hessdalen update. Okay, welcome, everyone. These are exclusive clips from the second field action Project Hessdalen carried out in 1985. This is from Runa. Thank you, Runa and Project Hessdalen. For 40 years, these tough Norwegians have carried out UFO research up in these mountains. They've worked with the Norwegian military. Project Hessdalen is actually celebrating its 40-year anniversary today as we speak. So Runa sent this celebratory exclusive film so I could post it on Lato Files for this live show. This was when Dr. J. Allen Hynek visited back in 1985 for the project's second field operation, where the teams stayed out in the field for 5 weeks, actually. There's one of the boxes. And when you look at the surroundings, you can perhaps understand why the phenomenon may reside here. You can only get into Hessdalen by snow machine in the winter. So together with the Norwegian Armed Forces, UFO Norway, and UFO Sweden, they started this pioneering work back in the 80s, and still to this day stands for a milestone of UFO research. According to Runa, this cat and mouse game continues to this day in the inhospitable mountains, where the phenomenon is always one step ahead, lurking in the shadows, he says. Certainly a lot of places to hide. This big names, Erling Strand comes up here in a minute. That was Hynek. So J. Allen Hynek, the Norwegian team has a new generation of explorers to walk in those giant footsteps from Dr. J. Allen Hynek. I believe this was his last interview before he unfortunately went back to the US. There's Erling Strand. Hynek went back to the US and unfortunately passed away after this. But now the team is following in his footsteps. Next phase of the operation is Operation Arctic Seal, where they're going to cut into one of these lakes that they're walking on, dive down and see what the object is. I actually just ordered my tickets today. And so thanks for the support. Thanks to Dry Frog. He gave $100, man. Thank you so much. That pays for 20% of the tickets. There's Runa there laying cable to a new station and testing flares to see if it picks up on their sensors. I can't wait to get back to the Black Lodge. There's Magnus, tech director. There's John Moen, resident, and Frank, pilot. Excited. Okay, hello everyone. That was J. Allen Hynek, and thanks to Runa for that video compilation. And the music, black metal, is actually Norway's leading cultural export, according to Runa. So I have an exciting show for you guys today. Hopefully you like the new format. Thanks for everyone who's here. Let's see in the comments. Well, hello. Thank you, Leslie, for the moderators. Thank you, Shelley Montgomery. Thanks for everyone who's a YouTube member and for just being here. Exactly. Black metal. That was cool footage, right? So that's from 1985, and Runa says it's exclusive. Pretty interesting stuff. And that is, right, that is J. Allen Hynek. I can play it again just with the sound off while I go through the intro for tonight's video. Go back here. Let's play that again. Thanks again for everyone being here. This is J. Allen Hynek exclusive footage. Just play it so you can hear what he says at the beginning. Awesome. And then like you heard there, the black metal. So yeah, this is the live show, Lato Files. Welcome to the show. So today I have an interesting show. I'm going to break it up basically into 3 parts and take your questions. They're saying there was no sound, of course. I'll check it again. All right, guys, live TV. Can you hear that?
Stop near a house. It was very, very cold. It's minus 34. And if we'd had to walk, we could have frozen. For myself.
Yeah, what we're doing.
You know, letters and all that is fine, but it is much better to see for yourself.
Yes, of course.
Where'd it go? Oh, awesome. You got to love live shows, everybody. Thanks for that. I spent the past 2 hours dealing with audio issues, but now I got the headphones. I think it's working at least. We're getting there. We're getting there, guys. So welcome. Hopefully you enjoyed those clips. I'll release it as a separate video and actually record. I've recorded over it literally 4 times before this video, and but luckily it helped me figure out the audio issues. So thanks again to all the live viewers. The idea is that this will be once a week on Tuesdays. So I will show basically what I'm interested in, the stories I'm working on. I can spend more time researching and thinking about stuff and interacting with you guys, and less time editing and making videos in the past. We'll still release edited videos from this, but now you guys will be a part of it. If you saw from last week, we released an additional 3 videos from that live stream. And as we get better at the process now, as we get better at the workflow, we'll be able to add in additional edits and more information. So I hope you guys like it. Awesome. The idea is you guys interact, and it's a huge audience out there. A lot of smart people. I honestly don't believe I'm smarter or dumber, hopefully, than anyone else. So I do like to rely on all you guys. Okay, so let's get to today's actual video. So it's actually the fractal scalar universe and interacting with Massimo Teodorani. If you remember, Massimo Teodorani is a physicist from Italy, and he works on Project Hessdalen. So that's why I got that video. I was working with Runa, interacting with Massimo and asking about his theory, actually, because I found it separately after I interviewed him. He has many books on actually the plasma as life theory. So we will go through that, through how it interacts and integrates with my fractal universe theory. So I hope you find that interesting. Then we'll also look at the actual Patriot video. So on Patriot YouTube, there's an interesting video. I thought it was just interesting in its own right, of B-52s, F-35s, and F-16s flying together. And when you look the video, you'll see these weird white artifacts that show up. And I don't think it can be bugs, but I'm honestly curious what the community thinks. And I think it's an interesting video. So we will look through that, as well as have an interesting video on the flanker. If you're a Patreon subscriber or a YouTube member, you've already seen my video on the flanker, but that interesting intercept between the 2 flankers and the drone actually is the same system that the Chandelier image was taken from. So it's interesting to kind of look at some similarities there. So that is the show tonight. Welcome again to everyone's here. Hello to Cleveland. I appreciate you guys being here for sure. Plasma life is very interesting. Yeah, this show, man, just making this show blew my mind over the last several days, just thinking about it. I hope it comes out well, because it's very interesting. The idea is plasma life. The argument is for plasma life, and it's quite interesting. So we will get to it right now. All right, let me give you guys some good visuals. I actually used ChatGPT to fact check. They have a data analyst, and you can check your work with ChatGPT. I thought that was so cool, just checking the work. While we're going through that, let's just go through the intelligent plasma hypothesis, and then I can go through the actual scripted layout. So let me share this here for you guys. How does this look? That looks pretty cool. Okay, the intelligent plasma hypothesis, Dr. Massimo Teodorani. I did an interview with him basically last month. Very interesting. I did not know that he had all these books and theories on this. So, sorry about that. But he is integrated with Project Hessdalen. That's why I was interested, and we had a very interesting discussion about capturing the phenomenon on video up in Project Hessdalen, and you should check that out. It's about the spectrum analysis, etc. So we go pretty deep into the weeds. So here is his plasma hypothesis. Okay, so he sent this to me after he does have PDFs and other that explain it in much more detail, the actual hypothesis. But this is basically, I thought, a very good analysis excerpt. This is from his Teodorani speculative book, The Hyperspace of Consciousness. Okay, so I thought it was a good, basically summarizes everything that I could tell from my limited research. So here we go. He says, let's now speak about what being apparently a natural phenomena shows very anomalous characteristics. So as it will be discussed later, such anomaly might be related to the BLH hypothesis. The BLH hypothesis is the big library hypothesis. So what was interesting is researching for this video is I ran into a bunch of other theories. So we'll get to it a little bit later, but the big library hypothesis is actually a very old hypothesis. And the way I would relate it to our modern thinking is the multiverse. So basically, there's a giant library of every infinite option of every universe, right? Because why do we have fundamental constants in our universe? Why do we have the Planck's constant? We'll see Planck's constant later on in this video. Why do we have this number? The Planck's constant is just an insane number, little h, right? These fixed numbers in our universe, pi, all these other fundamental principal numbers. And when I actually interviewed Kurt Jaimungal on this video on this channel, the main takeaway I got from interviewing him is that we actually have no single reference to describe anything. Okay, in order to describe something, you have to relate it to something else. So you have to relate it to something else. And often in our mathematics, all of our systems, the way all of our math works is there's a random number, just a random number comes out of thin air, and Planck's constant is one of these numbers. You know, the speed of light. Okay, that is another just number that seems fixed into our universe. So the big library hypothesis states that there's this giant library, an infinite library, if you imagine both directions, and there's every option of every universe. So all the numbers would be completely different in other universes, right? But in this universe, it just so happens that all of the constants just were picked randomly off the shelf and happen to allow for life. And that's why life has emerged into this universe. And that's why all the physical constants are the way they are, right? So this is like the multiverse. We're surrounded by infinite other books, right? In the past, they just thought of an infinite library. They couldn't imagine maybe the multiverse. Okay, so that is the big library hypothesis. I thought that was interesting reviewing this. All right. Minerals contained in some rocky areas and mountains, especially near fault lines, are sometimes able to indirectly produce luminous plasma balls of long duration at low height. So this is, I mean, specifically directly about Project Hessdalen. So Massimo has done tons of investigation from Italy, right? He has gone up to Norway, but he's been their basically go-to astrophysicist. And so he has basically, this is his argument for how it works. What is the reason of Hessdalen? He argues it could be these plasma balls of intelligent life. This can be due to piezoelectric effects when rocks are under stress, especially of a seismic nature, or due to effects similar to a natural battery. Both geophysical phenomena have also been simulated in a laboratory. So he's basically proposing that these lights could be actually generated from the Earth. So we could actually be creating this type of life, this type of plasma life could be generated from the Earth through these type of weird effects in geology, etc. The main physical causes producing anomalous light phenomena are today sufficiently well understood. But what we still don't know are the physical reasons why such light phenomena, often characterized by several colors and able to pulsate, show a long duration, i.e., which physics governs the plasma confinement mechanism. So we don't have any actual physical explanation for the duration of these effects, right? For these hour-long effects that they're seeing in Project Hessdalen when they have these red balls of light just sitting there, it seems like a light source for hours. That doesn't make sense. Your ball lightning is seconds. So there's no actual good explanation is what he's explaining here for the duration of the plasma confinement mechanism. Another mystery is constituted by the fact that sometimes light bulbs are able to acquire geometric shape. Several studies have been conducted by some researchers, including this author, in which it's been possible to build up quite clear empirical and observational picture. Of course, several physics theories have been proposed to try to explain the mechanism of long-lasting plasma confinement, but none of them resulted to be satisfactory so far. So again, there's still no good model. We don't even have a good model. Before presenting a new hypothesis that seems to be quite a lot related with much of what has been discussed so far, we must make extensively two important premises. So these are kind of his main arguments, right? Thesis kind of the paper, is that one, the particles composing a plasma, which sometimes behaves as a quantum coherent medium, might resemble the behavior of the microtubules in the brain. Okay, so what he's basically saying is there are quantum effects going on that can mimic the microtubule effects that was found, that's put forth, the argument by Penrose. So Penrose, and it basically we'll explain it here later, he argues that microtubules is where actually we can receive and transmit consciousness, is what his argument is. And basically, Massimo is saying that plasma can exhibit the same behavior. It can behave as a quantum coherent medium, which in that same sense can now act as a microtubule, like a microtubule in the brain. So the same function that microtubules do for humans, right, is to, argued through Penrose, is to actually allow us to experience conscious events. Massimo is saying that happens in plasma. So that's his first argument. The second one is the behavior of plasma under particular conditions seems to simulate human DNA. Let's now discuss them. Okay, so his second one is it basically, there's plasma elements when it mixes with gas. Plasma, according to Massimo, is that it can form helix structures. So you're looking at permanent helix structures that can replicate, meaning it can encode information, encode data. That's what Massimo is proposing. It's pretty amazing. So let's discuss them here. All right, welcome to the live show. Hope you guys are enjoying this. There is a heart. All right, here we go. So many years ago, David Bohm's first theoretical physics studies dealt with plasma. It's the fourth state of matter. He discovered that plasma may behave as a highly cooperative structure, like if particles, ions and electrons that are even very far away from each other are able to feel instantaneously what happens to one of them. This would be like your quantum entanglement. This gives to plasma, at least qualitatively, a structure of coherence that is not dissimilar to the coherence found in quantum objects. So coherence means even, I believe it's entanglement. So even across great distances, you're exactly lined up and can link to each other, basically. Therefore, the many particles composing plasma behave like if they were only one entity and not separated from each other, in such a way that any action done on a group of particles is just felt by another group of particles composing the same plasma agglomerate. To me, this sounds like what Michael Levin is discussing when he talks about what is intelligence. He says it's basically the group, whatever it is, organized, I would say, in this plasma cells, if you will, if they're actually trying to solve an actual problem or organize toward one goal. That's how Michael Levin discusses intelligence found through different methods. So at this point, it's not so difficult, at least qualitatively, to find a strict similarity between plasma particles and the microtubules inside brain neurons. So this is where he's relating it to the previously amped discussion, or. Okay, this is Penrose Hamerhoff theory about brain states. The microtubules and tubulins therein act like only one entity. And really what they do is they collapse the wave function. That's according to Penrose. Okay, and it's important here just to pause on this and actually look up the or. I had it up earlier. Penrose theory. Because this is quite interesting. Orchestrated objective reduction. That's what it's called. Check this out. That's or, right? Or, sorry, I don't, however you pronounce that. This is orchestrated objective reduction, is a theory which postulates that consciousness originates at the quantum level inside neurons rather than the conventional view that is a product of connections between neurons. So basically, the microtubules in your brain, essentially, what Penrose, I believe, again, it's not the easiest of reading, but what he's putting forward is that there are quantum states at the very, very small, super small level, right? That are your cells, the microtubule cells are created actually to provide some sort of quantum, like, I think of it like a shock. It's a 1 or a 0 shock. And that can be a receiver or a transmitter into what could be a field of consciousness, right? If you consider that now the material world is not the fundamental, basically fundamental to this universe. If consciousness or some sort of field of, like, the Akashic records, let's say the big library, right? If there's the Akashic records is different from the big library. The big library is an infinite multiverse. Akashic records is actually an infinite energy field of all knowledge, right? And either way, it's some sort of field. I just bring up Akashic records as an interesting example. But if you had consciousness as fundamental to this universe, then what you could imagine is you have some way to tap into that field biologically. And that could be what these microtubules actually do, is not necessarily create the experience, but it's taking the senses from this world and then acting as a transmitter receiver to some sort of field through the quantum world, through this quantum entanglement, through what he's talking about here, these type of connections between neurons. The mechanism is held to be a quantum process called objective reduction, also known as models of spontaneous wave function collapse or dynamical reduction models. So basically, what is actual reality? What he's proposing is that the observer essentially collapses the wave function. So decides just by observing it, objectively reducing it, it collapses the wave function orchestrated by cellular structures called these microtubules. It is proposed that the theory may answer the hard problem of consciousness and provide a mechanism for free will. So this is actually the or. And so Massimo is saying that plasma, the plasma balls, plasma balls could be doing the same thing, as in they can form the same sort of structures, they can pass the same information, and maybe have a link to consciousness and intelligence through the same sort of processes. So let's see how he explains that. Welcome to everyone. Any questions? You guys following along? So we only have 388 people here. If you guys have any questions, I'll probably answer it. The jellyfish is a floating mushroom. Okay, excellent. All right. So here we go. So that is basically Massimo. Let me just finish what Massimo's explaining. Okay, so you understand that, right? The or Penrose Hameroff theory about the brain states that microtubules and tubulins and therein act like one entity, and they describe the same wave function. So they collapse the wave function and they give us consciousness. This is the argument. When, according to Penrose's physics model, the wave function spontaneously collapses, a moment of consciousness is generated in such a way that an average human being is able to experience at least 1 million moments of consciousness every day, daily. So based on our dimension, the way I think of it, on our dimensional size, the neurons, it took however many billions or trillions of neurons that we have organized through some sort of manner to actually give us 1 million conscious elements per day. And that's where Penrose, he uses Planck's number here to determine that actually the number of events is equal to Planck's constant h divided by t, which is time, right? It's kind of like energy. Instead of E equals mc squared, Penrose says E equals H over T. So energy or events, as he calls his big E, is equal to actually Planck's constant, this random number, divided by T. And that gives you a number of events. According to all the calculations on the sizes and everything, he says that comes out to 1 million conscious events per day. And, you know, I think of it this way for UAPs, right? If you look at all these UAP interactions, how many of these interactions always have a weird time element, right? Or like in aerial school, you know, they move weird when the beings are seen. They seem to skip, or they do the things again, or they do them backwards. You know, it seems like there's something wrong with the clock. You know, that like our clock is different from their clock. It could be our consciousness experience, the clock that we use to actually tick 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 to see, right, to experience this universe through our systems, is on a totally different clock timer, right, than what you're seeing. So I thought of that as an interesting correlation. Okay, we have said that we consider as consciousness can be strictly related to the idea that we have of spirit in the ambit of a model, following also Bohm's concepts about implicate and explicate orders, in which consciousness, spirit, and its neural correlate, the brain, are strictly linked together in a way that the one cannot exist without the other. So he says you do need the actual, I guess, consciousness and spirit and the neural correlate. You need the brain linked together, okay? So now let's come to plasma, he says. Can the elementary particles constituting a plasma be compared to microtubules, in order that such particles, by composing a cooperative entity, right, described by only one wave function, so because they collapse the wave function, when working in unison all together, can this give rise to the emergence of consciousness? So can the same thing happen that we are experiencing, right? We know that we experience consciousness, and we maybe, hopefully, we're getting in close. We're zoning in on why it is, although this is the only actual model I've even heard of. You know, I was like, what are the alternate models? I asked ChatGPT, what are the alternate models for this, for Penrose's theory? And there was basically none. You know, there's nothing. Okay, so this is what we have right now. And he says it's plasma. Can it do the same thing? He says he believes it can. We are simply hypothesizing that some plasma balls might work at certain circumstances as a brain capable to produce moments of consciousness. But being a brain implies being a form of life. Is it possible that a life form made of plasma exists? It seems so, according to some studies stimulating its behavior. So I'd like to ask Massimo, what are these studies? But basically, he's hypothesizing that even if it's not intelligent, maybe these plasma balls could be some form of consciousness. Maybe even if it's just a Paleolithic, just a biological, bacterial type entity. Maybe it's not super intelligent, or maybe it is intelligent, but either way, it's conscious, is what he's arguing. Numerical simulations show that when a plasma comes in contact with a cloud of fine dust grains, they immediately acquire an electric charge, sucking electrons from the plasma surrounding them up to form a core of electrons, which in turn attract the positively charged ions of the plasma itself, thus giving rise to plasma crystals. Okay, so that's a long sentence there. So basically what he's saying is, according to numerical simulations, when you have fine dust, okay, so fine dust interacts with plasma, what happens is the dust grains immediately acquire an electrical charge. And so they actually form a gradient, an electrical gradient, sucking electrons from the plasma. And what happens is you form a core of electrons that attract positively charged ions from the plasma itself. So effectively forming a structure which Massimo says is called plasma crystals. So plasma crystals, driven by electrostatic forces, dust grains are full twisting and helical structures. He says they are full helical, while the plasma becomes polarized. So polarized means plus or minus, right? So if you helical structure, polarized plasma, and the plasma crystals acquire shapes that rapidly evolve into a double helix identical to that which characterizes the DNA. in which shows a self-organizing exceptional ability. So this is computer numerical simulations. It's what he is arguing. The dust interacting with plasma, it's just gas and dust right out in the cosmos. Dust interacting with plasma can actually create DNA helical structures. This shape is replicated in other plasma crystals as if these forms could reproduce by sending a genetic code in everything surrounding them. This is quite interesting because if you look now at our cosmology, I can't even say it. It's so broken though. They keep saying we need an alternate view of reality. We need an alternate view, especially with JWST has just broken so many things right in half. And what they've actually found is just structures larger than we could possibly imagine. If you notice the ring of galaxies, it's 1.3 billion years across. We know now black holes are probably different from what we consider they are. They're probably not this kind of imaginary singularity. They probably are actually something, right? It's not just a black hole. That's just how we describe things in our lack of knowledge. I think also the same thing will be found of dark matter and dark energy. So what he's finding is they have actual studies showing that this does happen. So you can have this. The simulation shows that these helixes have two stable configurations represented by a small and a large spiral, while each helix contains various sequences of these two states. Researchers believe that such dynamic feature allow these structures to store information. So to actually store information and act like DNA does, right? Because I've argued in my fractal universe theory that it's basically it's size independent. You have scalar independent systems. So plasma systems, even large systems, possibly even like the sun. Okay, so although we'll go into a little later how the sun may not be a plasma, but what you'll find is either way, this would argue, right? If plasma life exists, then what you could possibly have is literally every star could be alive, as in conscious, which just seems insane. But that would imply that everything would at some state probably be conscious, or at least linked to this conscious field. So I don't see why we wouldn't even see that things like the sun could actually be the life that we're looking for. Where's all the UAPs? Probably could be right there. Oh man, it's gonna be so awesome. The sun. That's what George Carlin said. He's like, what should you worship? Just the sun. You can see it. Right, the helix appears as a kind of informative code, which eventually leads to replicate through any structural transformation from one generation to another. So this is what we find through our universe, even neural networks. If you look at actually neural networks, they work through evolution. Your neural network actually works by going through layers, through time. And then you get information back. You have forward flow and backward flow. All it is information from one generation to another through time, right? And to give shape to increasingly complex and stable structures, a code at all comparable to the genetic information holding together the organic matter, and with the characteristic of producing exactly as a living cell. In other words, it does seem that such structures made of dust and plasma is real living beings, able to reproduce and evolve. Man, Massimo, so awesome, man. I can't believe I didn't read this before our interview. If this is the case, excuse me. If this is the case, is it possible that a form of plasma life exists everywhere in the universe, from the interstellar space to our atmosphere? Transient light phenomena, whose plasma nature has been demonstrated in the course of instrumented observational research carried out in Hessdalen, Norway, and in other similar places in the world, seem to trace quite closely the behavior of plasmas and dust recorded through these numerical simulations in the forms of balls of light that tend to divide, join, multiply, follow a spiral motion resembling the behavior of a living cell. Wow, amazing stuff. So what he's saying here is basically, if this is the case, after studying Project Hessdalen for so many years, right? I would guess I'll have to ask him, but I believe he's been on for over a decade, and he is a astrophysicist. So after that, his best speculation is that actually it is the plasma life, could actually be plasma life. And what he says is transient light phenomena. So this plasma nature that's been demonstrated in Hessdalen traces quite closely the behavior of plasmas and dust recorded through numerical simulations. So it matches. numerical simulations match what they're seeing out in Hessdalen if you assume that this stuff is alive, right? Plasma life. These balls of light contain substantially the same ingredients as simulated plasma crystals. Plasma in the atmospheric dust in aerosol form with water vapor is a possible catalyst, generating thermo-electrical chemical processes able to confine these plasma spheres. So how do you contain the plasma sphere, right? How does it stay in its little aerosol form? And he's saying it's actually because it's a living being, and somehow it's evolved and formed to that. Such anomalous light phenomena have a tendency to multiply and evolve, and do so on timescales of the order of minutes or even seconds. We want to test the hypothesis that such phenomena may acquire some level of elementary intelligence, which would be manifested through regular or semi-regular light pulsation. All this can be accurately measured using high-speed photometry by acquiring 10,000 frames per second and then analyzed using time series analysis. So when I did interview Massimo, he said that he wanted to use 10,000 frames per second cameras, which just seemed insane to me. I know you can do that, but I hadn't considered it for this. Interesting, he thinks that you could have these plasma balls evolving on seconds through these thermo-electrochemical processes. Quite interesting. In few words, from what has been extensively discussed above, it might be possible to hypothesize that if really plasmas are able to become in certain conditions life forms, then a part of them might evolve towards forms of intelligence that is more or less sophisticated. So if you do have life, right, he says you do have consciousness, and then it's in the same organization that we know of intelligent life, then you would just assume, extrapolate up and down, right? So you could have like dumb forms of plasma balls and really smart plasma balls, I guess. The consequences of such a hypothesis would be really disruptive. They would, because then for any life form, even intelligent, based on plasma, a planetary atmosphere would be almost irrelevant for their life, for them to live, as there should be no need of a habitability zone as we've conceived it until now, and such as other projects like the SETI project. So what is the reason maybe we're not finding any life? If we are in fact surrounded by life, it's right there. We're not considering it, because when I looked, what are the best counter arguments against Penrose's actual theory is that it's just not possible. And if you look at what's actually the best counter argument against the plasma balls, the argument they will contend is it's just not possible. You know, I guess you just have to find overwhelming evidence, or it's incorrect, right? This is, like we said, it's a speculative theory. I just think we need to look at other theories right now in the cosmology world, and here is one. According to this scenario, life forms based on plasma might truly live everywhere in the universe. If this were effectively the case, all the planets of the solar system, even those with poisonous atmospheres, might indifferently harbor life forms of this kind. We've also seen on Venus, they have phosgen, only known that we know about from plankton. So you could have life in the actual gas clouds of Venus, right? Imagine that. And imagine if you have plasma life. That would change everything. I mean, that would mean like the stars could be just giant planets in their own right, just full of beings. I mean, it's amazing to think of. As it happens on the Earth, the trigger, we could denominate it as a midwife, for the birth of such plasma forms starts from natural mechanisms due to the geophysical conditions of the soil or underground, to atmospheric mechanisms, or to both. Due to different causes, the interstellar space is everywhere full of plasma at various temperatures, and this might furnish the incubator for the birth and the development of life forms that might also be characterized by intelligence, without any constraint with the biological conditions of livability as we understood them so far. This was quite interesting, because he's arguing that Earth could be like a baby factory, create these kind of forms of life and help in the development. That would mean it could be anywhere without the constraints of what we think of biological life, and again, we're also seeing all signs of life around us. We're seeing biological elements in all of the nebula out in space. We're seeing through spectrum analysis, JWST, we found not only other planets, but everywhere we look in the nebula, We're seeing biological elements. All the precursors for life is out there, just everywhere. It's not even a joke. Like you're literally, I'm not joking when I say we could find out that the sun is freaking alive and just this giant planet of plasma being. It is even obvious that if intelligence were able to develop inside such hypothetical plasma structures, then some form of science and technology might spring from it, in a form that is totally different from how we, sentient biochemical beings based on carbon chemistry, are able to understand it. In fact, intelligence by its nature is led to build up organized, coherent, and ordered structures. That's from Michael Levin, basically argued intelligence is the large, whatever structure it is, going towards an organized goal and finding novel ways to accomplish it. Moreover, according to this hypothesis, we cannot exclude at all that such intelligences may be able to organize in form of true neural networks for the exchange of information, which might occur also using the mechanism of quantum entanglement, which would permit the reception and the transmission of data that are not constrained by space and time. Oh man, it's amazing. So just gonna take a break here, man. Take some questions from you guys. I had also a ChatGPT genned up some photos. I'm gonna show those here while I take a few of your questions. So look at that. We're going to talk about this in a little bit, but if you look at the sun, okay, Unzicker, he's actually a YouTuber, and this is not an this is a generated image, right, of the sun, but it's to show how it could possibly be just some crazy other form of life that we're not considering. Plasma is the fourth state of matter, and we know nothing about it. I mean, it's just crazy. So the solar model has a lot of issues with actually what is the sun actually made out of. They say it's just hydrogen and helium, but as I'll show here in a second, Unzicker on YouTube, he's an astrophysicist. He says that those don't really make sense. There's for the temperature, right? The sun cannot be a plasma based on its temperature profile. And how can it be a gas, right? Gases don't give off discrete spectral lines. Okay. And although there are discrete spectral lines, the sun has like black body, it kind of reflects a full spectrum like a black body object. So it's actually a liquid. All right. Let's see what you guys have. I went to Norway, Eric, in October. I saw the Aurora Borealis. I did not see the Hessdalen lights. But yes, I have talked to multiple people that said they saw it and watched it for long time, seconds, and for hours even. Going back up. I think if the sun is conscious, it's trying to destroy us. Slothic. I don't think so. I think actually, I'll tell you what I think a little bit later. But I think it's the center of our solar system and our cell. The Earth has some play in this whole thing. If you look at it from above, if you imagine that the plasma can hold DNA, then the sun is basically the nucleus of our solar system. It's obviously the nucleus. And so could it be holding actually information for our solar system, which in a way acts as its own living cell or entity? You have Jupiter. Jupiter basically defends all the interior planets. It's giant gravity and magnetic wave. It just captures all your inbound meteors, etc. Protects us. You have the asteroid belt. What's up with that thing? And our sun actually is a lone star. I think it's only 10% of the stars in our galaxy are single stars like this. Most of them are binary, actually. And the planet layout's quite interesting as well. So I don't think the sun's trying to kill us. I hope not. Okay. I got my mug here. All right. Thanks for the super chats. X Poison super sticker. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, I'm going to Norway and I got the tickets and I would appreciate all the support. Okay. Okay, so this is really an intriguing exploration of the fractal scalar universe theory and the sun. So previously we've delved in some similar concepts. I've released a theory video, one theory video a month. It's actually, I really enjoy them so much. I'm passionate about it, why I started creating, but they're my least liked videos. And, but I think it's important that actually we look deep into certain topics and get the big picture, right? If I can predict where anything is going to be in the future, then I can beat it there, right? And knowledge is power. Information is so powerful. If you think information is really the root of fear in many ways, if you think about it, why do nations or people attack other people is really lack of information, right? If you think they're going to attack you, there's a threat there. There's that not knowing, right? That lack of information will actually create the threat on its own. So just not knowing something creates fear. If you think about what I was talking about there with consciousness as the base level, if everything is known, then there's no fear, I believe, right? Fear is really from not knowing. And so as information walls are broken down, as we can start to see through the mainstream media lies, essentially, I mean, it's such BS. You can just see it so clearly. But now I think we're able to see it, and it's really because we're looking at it from a bigger picture, right? And so that's why I do like these videos. Thank you to Femme Fatale. Let's see, I'll answer these questions now. So, did you hear about the Wikipedia editing cabal who are vandalizing Wikio related to UAP? UAP whistleblowers, UAP journalist Jeremy Corbell tweeted about it last night from Femme Fatale. Thank you for the support. I haven't heard of that. I mean, Wikipedia, yeah, anyone can change it, right? Every year I actually donate to Wikipedia, but that's definitely an issue. And this is where we're going to see just more misinformation, more issues, just like you're mentioning. But I think it's crumbling down. And that's why I've pushed so hard for NFTs and blockchain. It does provide. Okay. And thank you, Chris Mitchell. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so for our discussion today, we start with groundbreaking work of Donald Hoffman, who he relays in this video. It's Donald Hoffman on consciousness and conscious agents. Okay, so check this out and how it relates to what I'm talking about here about conscious agents. Let me share this.
I would like to solve the hard problem of consciousness. So let me start with a mathematical theory of consciousness on its own terms. So I'm not trying to ask what properties of neurons could cause consciousness. I'm not interested. I'm asking myself the scientific question. If I knew nothing about the physical world, I just wanted a theory of consciousness, what would be the mathematical structure I would write down in consciousness? And what dynamics would I write down?
Okay, so that is Donald Hoffman. And if you've heard him talk before, he mentions a lot about these conscious agents. And what the conscious agents are to me is he's saying disassociated identities. If you combine Donald Hoffman's idea of the dashboard of our senses, that's also Bernardo Kastrup, that the material world is not fundamental. So none of our models can actually explain the conscious experience of eating chocolate. I'd argue there, like I just showed, is Penrose through his microtubules says that does create at least a model, right? You can actually use that as a model. But these conscious agents, according to when you combine Donald Hoffman and Bernardo Kastrup, is basically disassociated identities inside of the giant supermind, if you will, the source. What would that be? Is some sort of field, as again, it's related. The point is, what is your model if consciousness is the base? What is your model if materialism, the fundamental world, is not the base? Right? And there's really nothing. There's nothing really to even look at apart from what I just showed there. So just offering, there's a lot of stuff out there, the spiritual world, the NDEs. I mean, there's life after death, surviving death, with the Leslie Kane, the UAP phenomena. So there really is a lot of stuff going on out there. At least this is a model, and it's based off of idealism. Either way, consciousness is the base, is what Donald Hoffman is saying. Okay, excellent. Thank you for exploring these new ideas in the space. Your curiosity is highly appreciated. Thank you very much from the Ryan Wood Show. Thank you, mate. Thanks for the support. Okay, so that is Donald Hoffman, and really expanding on Hoffman's concepts, we explore Bernardo Kastrup's perspective. So Bernardo Kastrup, he has an interview in Your Consciousness is Not in Your Head. He suggests that our reality may be part of a larger consciousness, offering a profound rethinking of our experience. So let's check that out.
Maybe let's start with your criticism of those scientists who interpret brain images. Please explain what is your criticism about the interpretation of brain imaging studies.
Well, I think there is nothing wrong with interpreting brain imaging from a scientific perspective. That's the primary way to study the mind, because our only access to someone else's mind is brain imaging, fMRI, MEG, EEG, PET, and so on. So I have nothing against that. I think where we go wrong is when scientists begin doing philosophy and saying that the brain is what generates the mind. Well, wait a moment. There is a correlation between the two. We can learn a lot about one from the other. In other words, we can learn a lot about the mind from brain imaging. But when we interpret that correlation as implying a certain causation, like the brain causes the mind, that's when we will artificially narrow our horizons. And I think that is unjustified. That's a philosophical step, and it's a bad one. There are plenty of reasons to think that the brain does not generate the mind, but the brain is what the mind looks like when it's observed from the outside. The brain is the image of the mind. It's the cognitive representation we make of another mind, not the generator of the mind.
Wow, that's very powerful. I kind of think of it like the real world, or how we're experiencing right now, you and me in this universe, is actually we are ideas manifested in a physical form, which I think is quite interesting. Massimo Teodorani, he said before, is they've actually experienced communication with these plasma light balls in Hessdalen, and they've used just a really low power laser, super low power laser, shined it at the light and changed the pulsation frequency of the light and the color. And so some sort of communication. And if you know about light, that should not happen if it's just light, right? So how does photon-photon interaction happen? Normally light just passes through other light, it doesn't actually hit it. The other thing weird about the Project Hessdalen light balls is they give out full spectrums. So not discrete, like a plasma should give a certain discrete, right? If it's burning plasma and at certain temperatures based on what is actually burning, you get discrete elements. That's why your neon signs, right? You get different color neon is actually different elements in there, giving you different gas spectrum lines. Okay. So Bernardo Kastrup there suggests our reality may be part of a larger consciousness, and hit the strongest evidence that Bernardo Kastrup has that I found is his argument on dissociated identities. So if you look at actually inside of, I guess, people with multiple personalities, so multiple personality people, there's a lot of interaction here where whoever is actually in control, the actual person in control at the time, could see, right? And they imaged in an MRI, actually, there was no issues, everything connected, that person could see. Right? But one of the alters, they called it altered personality. One of the alters was blind. And so when that alter had executive control, they put that person with that new personality in the MRI and actually imaged the connections, and it was off. It was just switched off, meaning the connections were there, right? The same physical person could see. But when an alter is there, a different person who was blind, a blind alter, actually that person could not see and was blind. The other very interesting point here that, again, I think it's Bernardo Kastrup's most powerful, really single single data point is that when the person is dreaming, then all of the alters can actually be in the same room. So all the multiple personalities, when the biological person, like if the body is dreaming, then actually in the dreams will be multiple personalities inside the dream and can interact with each other. So Bernardo Kastrup, his argument is that this shows that in the biological world, in the physical world, we have clear examples of dissociated identities inside of the same brain. So in that case, this is a conscious agent, like Donald Hoffman said, these dissociated identities, basically arguments, if you will, inside of the same brain are now acting as conscious agents. And so you combine these two theories, very powerful for analytic idealism. And now you just extrapolate that again onto plasma life. It could also happen. There was another really powerful point that Bernardo Kastrup was basically making there. Let's check it out.
Can learn a lot about one from the other. In other words, we can learn a lot about the mind from brain imaging. But when we interpret that correlation as implying a certain causation, like the brain causes the mind, that's when we will artificially narrow our horizons. And I think that is unjustified. That's a philosophical step.
Okay. So that is a huge point there, is what he's saying. And I think this really is what we're doing wrong. Is he says that the scientists are making philosophical decisions. So scientists, not philosophers, right? So he actually is a computer scientist turned philosopher. So he's done both. But scientists are making the philosophical decision that some of this stuff is not possible, right? They're taking the philosophical decision that the physical world, the material world, is fundamental to our understanding, to our conscious experience. The problem is, like I've mentioned earlier, is neural networks. How do neural networks work? I'm sure you've gotten a lot of practice working with AI, right? Your large language models, your neural network. Neural network is just a filter. Okay, it's layers of filters. That's all a neural network is, right? If you think of it through generations. So it's just layers. You start with a whole ton of inputs, right? 1 million books, and then you end up with a question, and then you end up with an answer, right? So it really is, a neural network is evolution, really. You're just evolving through filters, right? Narrowing down with a feedback loop to go back, right? So if there's an idea in this world, it won't be fit for the next generation. It will die out. So everything that, at least what I've noticed, is neural networks work through evolution, which seems to be how this universe works through time, is through evolution. So I thought that was quite interesting that if you think about it, neural networks only know what you put in them. They only know what you put in them, right? Look at ChatGPT. Up until some point, it's very smart, right? But after that, it's totally dumb. It also, if you leave out certain instances, right? They've noted biases in these AI large language model programs. The whole point is a neural network can only answer the options, at least that we know about it, from its selected options, right? Look at the FSD, the full self-driving from Tesla. When the humans were putting in requirements, right? Humans are putting in their own restrictions on what could be the possible outcome of the solution. It didn't work. How did they get to full self-driving? And they will this year, is going to be by removing all human input. Literally just putting in the data system. Why? Because that removes all of your filters. It removes all your human bias filters, which are going to limit your data set. It's going to limit your solution set. So the reason we have no models to even come up with an idea of what's going on is because the scientists are completely philosophically removing half their brain and saying that this is not possible. And why is it not possible? Because it's not possible. So same thing with UAPs, is because it's not possible. So we don't need to look there. If you don't include it in your neural network, it will not come out as a solution set, right? That's how neural networks work. Humans are only neural networks. So I think we can agree on that. So if you wonder what that person in that other country thinks, you should know. Basically what you think reversed. Reversed. Only what they've been accessed. And if you've seen more polarization, it's because the neural networks are getting less and less access to a wide variety of information and just barreling down onto one option, philosophically cutting off huge arguments, huge solution sets you're just cutting off. And so that's, I think, a very interesting point that Bernardo Kastrup brought up there. Okay, and then my final point is the sun as a living entity. And this is quite interesting. So let me find this for us. How's everyone doing? Hope you guys are liking it. All AI is human input. Find this. Okay, why don't we do something? I'll get to that after. I'll get to the end. This is the Real 52. Arrive at the Red Sea. We'll watch that after this. Let me just show you here. I'll introduce you if you haven't seen Unzicker's Real Physics. I'm a subscriber for sure, man. This guy's awesome. I just found him last month. And that's what I was explaining here is about, I mean, the embarrassing nonsense of particle physics. No, we do not need a new collider. This one's amazing. 128,000 views. So he does have some views. Let's see if you can see it here. That is just awesome. And it's a great, he gives it at a conference. And it's so true, right? Because what happened after Higgs boson? What happened? You got your collider, you got billions of dollars, you gave each other, accolades. I'd say something worse, nerdy accolades and awards and millions of dollars. And now they just need a bigger collider. They just need a bigger Large Hadron Collider so that they can get a better understanding. They have no understanding. There's no understanding. Okay, so what's interesting here is I saw here the sun is a liquid. Here's why. So it goes through temperature gradients. This is actually quite good. The amount of the vapor decreases. And really what you can see is it a gas? Is it a plasma? It breaks out like based on new models. We have more information with our telescopes. You are seeing that it doesn't make sense that based on the temperature of the actual sun, right? 6,000 Kelvin, it shouldn't work, right? It shouldn't be in this realm. Let's see what he says here, how he explains it.
Plasma here. This is at very high temperature, and you have the logarithm of the temperature plotted here. You see 6 would be, we are in the range of millions of kelvins, and this would be thousands of kelvins. But the other axis is also important. You have here Pascal, the pressure, Newton per square meters, and you see that there is a region where you have this metallic state as a solid and even as a liquid. Presumably, it's possible at, this is 1000 Kelvin, a little bit more, so we are in the thousands of kelvins, but we need huge pressure. And this is, of course, a problem. We have to develop a model. It will be entirely different from the standard solar model, but let's just open-mindedly think about these possibilities and evaluate it. Now,
okay, so what he's saying is our standard model does not make sense. So based on the temperature of the sun, it could not be a plasma. Okay, plasma is like up here. Based on the actual pressure, size, everything in the standard solar model is the sun should be 150,000 degrees at the surface. Instead, it's only 6,000 degrees. Okay, so that just does not make sense. If we also look here, like I mentioned, here's how the sun actually looks. So we have new actual telescopes that can look at the sun and give us more information. So this does just, they call it this convection. Let's listen to this.
A little bit what we observe. It seems to be that there are regions where material is going up and sinking down. Sinking down would mean the molecular state is transformed back in the metallic state. Yeah, let's just have a look at the video of the sun's surface. You can download this from this very nice website, helioviewer.org. You see that kind of boiling surface here. You see all the turbulence, all that motion. And yeah, I didn't mention it. It has a clear surface. The sun is obviously a very distinct boundary between these two states of matter, and you cannot describe it as the standard model does it, just with one gaseous state of matter. You need that two different states which represent the boundary of the photosphere and the chromosphere. as I said, this is the website. Now, a couple of caveats.
Okay, so you see there. So each one of these things is the size of the Earth. Okay, and I believe they're there from 15 to 20 minutes. These are these kind of convections. But if you look, it's not like a gas or a plasma. You know, it's almost like a solid. And also, like the spectroscopy line, again, brings up issues, and they do have an answer in the standard model. Let me look here. But he just released this video. I'm really happy he released this video. I want to check it out with you guys. Pretty short.
Welcome to Real Physics. Is the biggest problem of solar physics a misunderstanding? Could be true. Arguably, the coronal heating problem is a huge problem for solar physicists. Now,
okay, so this is the coronal heating problem, and that's really what I mentioned, is based on what they say that the sun actually is, okay, does not match our understanding of the physics. Okay, I haven't watched this yet. This is what we're talking about, the solar spectrum. So if you look, the solar spectrum is at 5,900 degrees Kelvin. Based off the black body that we see, the actual black body radiation, it matches a solid object black body radiation, okay, at 6,000 degrees, based on, according to Unzicker, okay, again, I'm not a solar physicist, but according to Unzicker, based on our current model, this temperature doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be this low. It should be up at like 150,000 degrees. Standard model solar atmosphere. So again, if your hypothesis is that we are the only form of life in this universe, despite seeing basically signs, at least, or evidence of life all around us, then it's going to be difficult to actually see any other types of life that's actually around us. You're just ruling them out of your actual neural network. So here he shows the liquid metallic hydrogen solar atmosphere. Okay, so interesting. I'm not going to use up all of his video here. I just wanted to introduce you to Unzicker. If you haven't seen it there, I'm talking about the sun. And when I actually saw those elements on the sun, those sun tiles, if you will, I thought of Massimo's actual theory. Because as Massimo says, basically anytime you have a gradient, plasma moving, and ions, any sort of magnetization along with dust, now you can form these helical structures. That's interesting because another subscriber sent me the fourth state of water, saying that there are some forms of water, supposedly, where you have different ions. If you go back to one of my videos, I make the argument that we're going to actually, I speculate, and this is hypothesis, that we will actually find life anywhere we see a consistent changing energy gradient. So if you think of the Earth, we have dark, night, dark. So day, night, day, night, day, night, a consistent energy gradient, right, from the sun. So it's not just burning one side all the way. That it's not really a gradient. But anywhere you have an energy gradient now, you can have Maxwell's demon. Really, life there could set up some sort of arbitrage system, right, to use that energy to, instead of creating heat out of it, to take that energy and actually convert it, to order it into matter, right? So all interesting stuff. Let's see if I covered all of my things I wanted to cover for that. Okay, I did. Let me show some of these photos. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Exactly, yeah. Leslie, that was the water holds memory. The argument of that I saw was the fourth state of matter. It's these ions. So you could have charged like clean water, right? Ionized water minus plus. Now you have any sort, you have that would be like life water, if you will, life inside water. So this is ChatGPT came up with this. Go to the next one. Camera. Okay, this is so basically plasma. Could you have some sort of plasma helical structure? You know, what is the sun? What are the stars? Would they mimic systems of normal life, right, that we would see my theory, it shows that it looks just like an atom. If there is a conscious, field, if you will, and as Donald Hoffman portrays, this is all just a data structure, then maybe what we're looking at is a universe literally brimming with life, and it just doesn't care about us because we don't matter. We're just over here fighting each other over what we perceive as limited resources. But I can assure you, we do not have limited resources. We have unlimited resources, at least from our dimensional size from the sun. And I think it's our best nuclear reactor in the sky. It's going to be amazing. I think the future is actually very bright. Okay. And I did check it. Again, you can use ChatGPT and use their data analyst. We'll actually check. There's one final thought I want to leave on this theory video, is that if you look at the observer effect, we talked a lot today about quantum particles, right? Quantum entanglement, some sort of quantum element. And that actually relates to Penrose's argument, the one model I've heard of, at least, that somehow the neurons in our brain could create structures that would introduce some sort of gapping, like a quantum gapping, if you will. Would it get small enough that Planck's constant divided by T, right? We get 1 million of those per day based on the size of those little quantum microtubules, tapping somehow into this field, if you will, of consciousness, often referred to in the NDE world as the Akashic records or the source, or this could be how religions interact. They can tap into these, but mirrored through a certain method or thought process that they're using, because their neural network is already limited, right? There's only a certain option. If all you've ever heard about is Islam, then guess what? That's what you're probably going to believe. If all you've heard is your religion or your area now, and you've grown up and that is the option, each time you think that process, the neural networks, so the pathway in your brain, right, up that neural network layering process that filters it, it's only going to get what you put into it. So could it be tapping into this consciousness realm? So you have the microtubules now. Penrose relates some way to actually link transmitter and receiver through quantum processes. Donald Hoffman says that what we're looking at, our universe, actually is not fundamental, and instead we have what's called conscious agents that are operating. So Donald Hoffman portrays it's not fundamental. So if you assume consciousness is the base, and now we lay into Bernardo Kastrup's argument, and he shows that there is proof that we have disassociated identities inside of people, biological program systems now. If you look at the whole universe, the universe based on a recent study from 2019 out of Italy, as well as that statistical and density correlations of the greater universe match that of our neurons. So basically we have scientific statistical evidence, and this is what I keep saying, where's the evidence? There is evidence. Like, go look at it. There is statistical evidence linking the brain, how it's laid out, the nodes of the neurons, to the galactic structures, the actual galactic structures of the universe, i.e. we could be inside of some giant large brain. But like Bernardo Kastrup said, that's what it appears. That's just what it looks like. You and I look like this, but it's not what it is. As Donald Hoffman says, everything about evolution, which appears this universe, I would say this is the universe of evolution. Everything about this universe, about evolving, none of it evolves towards knowing the underlying reality. Everything towards evolution is towards fitness. What will make it through to the next layer? It's all about fitness. Donald Hoffman argues nothing, and he's done a ton of computational evolutionary simulations, right? Same thing kind of Massimo did on his simulations of plasma and dust. So everything Donald Hoffman says basically is that it's not based on the fundamental aspect of our reality. Okay, so we can't find it. Instead, we have these, what we call conscious agents. Finally, that goes into the idea of, could we have plasma life? Massimo Teodorani, he basically says that he argues we can, because it is modeled off of the same things that we're seeing from our brains. So we're seeing the same structures in plasma, helical structures through time. So based on what Penrose is arguing, these plasma structures could be accessing the same sort of quantum effects through maybe even a different way of doing it. And that's what I've been talking about. You'll get different clocks, right? If our consciousness experience is, as Penrose says, you have Planck's constant over time, then our clocks are going to be at a certain rate, 1 million conscious moments per day, right? But say UAP comes in, whatever these things are interacting with us, plasma balls, etc. If they are conscious, interacting with our consciousness, maybe it interacts with how that clock works, and you get different weird UAP type effects. All right. Finally on the sun. Okay, let's get to the final topic here. I guess I have 2 more topics. Oh, where'd it go? Here we go. All right, did you see that? Okay, did you see those white things? Hopefully the screen is up. It is. Okay, maybe I'll put... All right, so this is from Patriot YouTube channel. You guys can go check this out. Please do. I'm putting this up to kind of see if you guys know what it is, actually. So Patriot, if you just search for B-52, F-35, and F-16, fly together to the Red Sea. I mean, look at this total propaganda, like nuclear bombs. How many nuclear bombs can they carry? B-52s. But it's an amazing video and really cool to watch. So we'll kind of watch through this. And I want you to look and see if you guys can tell me what these things are. You'll notice like these kind of white streaks flying by. See that? Yeah, you see that? Looks like snow or something. I mean, they're flying in the air. Looks like they're underwater or something. Just dust particles, I guess, but... Huh. You know what I think it is, actually? Okay, I think I just figured it out while we're looking at it. And this is how I honestly do a lot of this investigation, guys. How else do I get ideas? I keep looking at stuff, or I'll think about stuff, or I'll read something, or watch a video, and then I sleep on it, or come back and touch it again, and look at it later. So, every case is up for grabs, right? Every case. I just want that to be known. Like, I'm not discounting any of them unless they've been fully discounted. Even Jeremy Corbell's video, I think we should get a better answer than no comment, right? We should get some sort of answer. Why don't they try and help us maybe for once, and then maybe we won't. I'll probably list out everything anyway. But I think what this could be is they're actually in a KC-135 taking the photo. And you actually lay down in a KC-135 and there's a screen there. So actually what we're seeing is dust in the KC-135 actually floating around and flying around. It's really loud in there. They're super cold. And so basically that's what we're seeing. He's got the camera inside and there's glass. Maybe you can see. He's got the camera inside. They're laying down, right? And actually, I'm guessing it's a tanker because they're flying right in tanker formation. You can get all the pictures. There's a window back there. And the boomer is going to be laying down while he's directing the actual boom into your jet. And so even the buff here, you can see, it looks like his air refueling. I've never seen him actually refuel. That would be terrifying, I think. It's quite interesting because when you're in pilot training, actually, they send the best pilots to the best planes. The fighters, everybody wants the fighters, Nobody wants the heavies or bombers, but they are the fighter track because they have to do the mission. That being said, we put targeting pods on these things, and there's been a lot of, not a lot, but there have been more than one fratricide events where they're doing combat air support, close air support, and they will bomb. They've actually bombed the wrong people, the wrong coordinates, and killed our guys. That's also happened with fighters, let's be honest. But as the fighter guys, when it happened, you're like, of course. Same thing with UAVs, etc. But pretty amazing video here. I think it's worth talking about the terrible elephant still hanging over our whole civilization that we need to deal with sooner or later is nuclear weapons. I mean, it's just ridiculous, everybody. It's that we're going to allow nuclear weapons to be on this planet. And that's what these are. That's a nuclear bomber for sure, 100%. I mean, they can drop tons of other things. Been around for how many years? Like 80 years? I mean, they have 4 engines on a side. What's interesting too is that these planes are harder to fly. The Buff is really hard to fly. Like I could land an F-35 in probably like 5 minutes less of training. A Buff now, man, that's going to take something. It's going to take something else. So they're actually probably harder to fly. You even see kind of snow there. You know, I wouldn't even be surprised. I bet snow is actually in the plane in the KC-135. That's what we're seeing. So they get it. They got in there. They're coated in snow. There's an F-35. Those things are amazing, man. That's just an amazing weapon of war. You can cause so much havoc because it's an electronic attack platform. I mean, it's just amazing tech. The whole thing is amazing. Plus stealth, plus a huge amount of internal fuel. F-35s have an amazing amount of internal fuel for how much they use. So that's why I would be in an F-35. You know, it's stealth, electronics, and tons of gas in real combat. That's what probably you want. I was watching here. It was funny. They're like suiting him up. He's getting an incentive ride. You know, I've done a lot of these incentive rides. This is F-16, South Carolina Swamp Foxes reserves. I actually know this guy, Mike Rose. Holy shit, I just noticed that. He is a great guy. He was a great, worked with him in Aviano. Mike Rose, look at that. He's Swamp Fox now. He must be the commander there. Great guy. They're lucky to have him. Interesting. Okay, so he's strapping him in there. This is, you sit in the back. If you haven't done an F-16 incentive ride, if you're one of the few people, I guess, these are LPUs. It's going to, in salt water, it's going to pop, and so you don't die, essentially, if you land in the water. They're flying over warm water, looks like, down in Carolina. They don't need the dry suits. Otherwise, we wear dry suits. Back seat is just, it's a repeater of the front with less stuff. This is your gun port. Nobody wants to fly in the D model, right? You lose gas. There's a guy breathing behind you. Breathing behind your neck is what it is. And then you just get any random name. Actually, you buy the jets. You pay normally. They raise money for the squadron. So F-16s, I flew that 18 years. I get asked a lot if I miss it. I definitely miss parts of it. Like here, you know, I probably don't need to be covering this right now, but you know, I do miss parts of it. But look, I felt comfortable wearing the headset. It was like I was back. It's so much pressure. There's so much. It's so much work. You know, if I took any one of you guys on a normal mission, I think you'd be pretty surprised. This is actually kind of an easy mission, but they're flying quite well. So you fly across the ocean like this. You know, normally this would be like a KC-135, the tanker, but you'll have 3 guys on one side and 3 fighters on the other of the tanker, and then you just fly along at tanker speed, right? So conserving gas, and then you refuel all 6 people every hour, sometimes every 30 minutes, even 15 minutes if you're really far away from land, because you got to have enough gas to get back to the land. Amazing stuff there. So they're in formation here. The Buff, look at that giant weapon system of death. And I did it. I mean, I was there in war. I'm actually drafting, I'm editing my manuscript finally. Hopefully I release it. Ghost of Mordor Ali. Going to be a book. I'm in chapter 2. I've already written. This will be my 3rd full edit on it. So hopefully I can make that happen. Get this out to you guys. I think war, especially nuclear weapons, is just totally stupid. We have enough resources now. We don't need any energy. We don't need any crazy new breakthroughs from aliens or anything. We have AI. We have all the systems. Future is going to be great, everybody. If we could just hold it together, not freak out. We really don't need to be killing other people. Not worth it. There's plenty of information. Sorry, there's plenty of resources on this planet. There is a lack of correct information. That's what it is. So that's what I think it is, everybody. That's snow, or what? That's not snow. No, it's too hot to be snow. Whatever those particles are. I know that guy too, Dave Ray, man. Holy shit! Look at that, man, David Ray. He was in my basic course in Phoenix. They actually wrote a book about our class. It's called Eye of the Viper. They made me the hero of the class. I did win DG. Where did he go? I won Distinguished Graduate in air-to-air and air-to-ground. But I didn't do some of the thing. I never saved a plane. He wrote in the book that I saved a plane by doing emergency landing. I didn't, but you know, I didn't crash a plane either. There's David Ray. Okay, amazing. We called him Wong Ray. Wong Ray. He's the nicest guy, soft-spoken, with a really, really thick Southern accent, like super thick. And what's interesting fact about him is he's an amazing BMX rider. You know those little tiny bikes with the little wheels and they spin in the circle and do a million flips? Wong Wei can do that. So amazing there. I saw two people I know. Do I know this guy? I don't. Small community, I guess. If I do, it looks like he's peeing. I don't know. He may be peeing. I hope not. Wong Ray, W-R-A-Y. I think I just outed him there. Okay, and then one final thing I wanted to show. This is also quite interesting, and then that'll be it for the show, man. Hour and a half. Hope you guys are enjoying it. It's cool. It's different. Okay, so you may have remembered, I hope you do, the Chandelier video. And it's not we haven't gotten the video yet. So this is from Jeremy Corbell's X. And he says, this is 2 weeks ago. Where's the date? January 11th. Today we released the image of a military film UAP, a still from a video. So they've only released an image that was filmed over the Persian Gulf. This vehicle of unknown origin had no conventional flight surfaces and has been officially designated by the United States as a UAP. This designation is currently maintained. So we've heard again, no comment from a military. He calls this the Chandelier UAP because it looks like a chandelier. Date and time not disclosed. Location is disclosed. So if you see here, the location is this aircraft spot here, and we'll find it here in a second in Google Earth. Imaging type, forward-looking infrared, and I think we know the system. I'll show it to you here in a second. And the event description, short synopsis can be seen in part 3 of the UFO Revolution. Okay, so he's getting everyone to check that out. Check it out. I've heard great things about it. It's on Tubi. Okay, so this is the actual image, and this is the chandelier actual image here. You got the time, but this looks like a different overlay. Okay, so this is giving a bearing 115. This gives you an aircraft coordinates. So I believe it is a Reaper, right? I believe it's this thing here. You know, it's this ball that you see up in the front. And this is actually similar. It's taking forever to look. To look. Look away, wait. It's similar to the jellyfish UFO video, right? But not exactly the same. I'm not sure how different the systems are. Flarkey on Metabug seems to know quite a bit. MTSB, essentially. This is interesting. Normally, this is blacked out because this would be a weapon employment zone telling you, you know, it's 5 miles away or something, 5 seconds. Okay, so anyway, this could be a diffraction pattern, and it looks like it's matched to the sensor. But just like gimbal looks strange, okay, it still is something anomalous. Like we don't know what it is. If one of those plasma orbs, like I've talked about, what would one of these plasma orbs look like on a system? If it looks like a missile plume or a high temperature plasma, right, like 6,000 degrees, it would look just like you aimed it at the sun, right, or a high hot object. So one of these plasma balls that I've explained, you know, Massimo argues is life, could also look like this. What we need to learn is how did it move? And there's some contrail here that I don't make sense. Or this is a contrail. And so what I tried to do is I went into Google Earth. So let me try and find this here. Sorry, I didn't have it up. Google Earth. I saved it in Google Earth. Those coordinates are right in the armpit of the Persian Gulf. I think I've showed it before on here. Let me open it. And the WES is interesting. I don't know what that is. I guess I'd like to hear from the audience if anyone knows, if there's, or if Flarkey is watching, any sort of person that's dealt with this. What is this? What is this over here? Normally, this is a range of the weapons employment zone. This will be 50%. This is when we shoot our missiles, right? If you have a target lock. But that would imply something is locked, you know? Normally, it's locked to the target. I don't see any sort of box, but locked to the target, and then you would shoot when it's, you know, this is, if he turns around, we're defeated right away. I'm sure you guys know this from playing all the games now. The simulators are so accurate. Okay, here we go. Here is your Chandelier drone coordinates. Where is that? Okay, so yeah, here is this is the base I was at, Balad, a giant base. I was there 6 months, 2000, end of 2005, 2006, and I wrote a book about it. The first 6 months I retired, called The Ghost of Mortar Ali. It's like this dude, this Iraqi. He's a myth. We don't know if he was there. It's just a crazy story. Okay, so this is the aerostat. And this is for the jellyfish video. If you see, it's right west of Baghdad. Right? This is Baghdad, right west of Fallujah, actually. So pretty far. How far is Baghdad's here? Yeah. So Balad. This is like a, 7-minute flight. How far is? And then Fallujah is over here. So it's actually west of Fallujah, you know? So they were probably, the fight for Fallujah probably included this base. Maybe that's how Flarkey knew about it. So anyway, they found these aerostats, right? They found like these balloon-like things on the Wayback Machine. And if you look in there, you can track it right down to this structure, this area. So that's why the government doesn't want, these videos being passed out. They just don't want anyone looking at them or anything. Like, we probably have bases like this all over the world, and they don't want anything being looked at. So if we look at the MQ-9 here, okay, finally loaded. Okay, you see that? So this is probably flying over the ocean. This is probably what it was, and this is a big drone. Okay, these aren't like your grandma's Predators. Okay, these can carry the same thing as an F-16. That's what our loadout was when I was there. You would carry a 500-pound laser guided bomb. You see, this is your little laser guide that guides onto the laser, or the GPS is built in, and then these fins flip out. You got to check all those fuses. These are your Hellfire missiles, right? 2 of them, satellite communicators. I don't know what that looks like. A radar, actually. Interesting. So they have this, and that's that structure there. If you see the structure, let me get to it. So how that's built there, according to Flarkey on Metabunk, is creating those weird visuals. This triangle, the arrows that we're seeing. Okay, but when I was researching that, what's interesting is that there's an amazing video on here. I love this video, and I've already talked about this with the patrons and with YouTube members. But this is a video. Remember this video? Okay, here's a flanker, right? So this is the same object, I believe, as the Chandelier. Sorry, same system. You notice the north arrow here. It's probably a Reaper. Here, they just don't have the overlays, okay? It's lacking the overlays. And I think that's probably just an easy way for them to declassify it so they can immediately post this. Because you remember, this was out like 4 days after it happened or something, this event where these flankers essentially over the ocean here try and take down this drone. So you'll see there's 2 flankers. We always fight as 2 ships or 4 ships. So you have a flight lead here, and the flanker is just this giant aircraft, man. I would love to fly a flanker. It's so awesome. And then you'll see the wingman back here. He's probably 3 miles away, looking how big he is. Okay, so if we look here, there's the wingman, if you could see it. Now he puts out gas. They can put out fuel because they have so much internal fuel. And I pause here. They can put out so much internal fuel. The flanker has like the weight of an F-16 inside of it in gas. That's the flanker. And they miss actually the fuel. They're trying to get into the engine of this drone that I think would hurt it, right? I don't know. Maybe it would take it down. They miss actually. So they dump the fuel past it. You look here at they have live missiles here. So that looks like an Archer. And that's an Adder. Looks like almost a 10 Chuck, man. That's a 10 Chuck looking thing. Okay, and then 3 out and a missile here. Look, in the center, they have another missile. So regular air-to-air loadout, and you'll see the second wingman here. They kind of skip through. There's like this glitch out. That's the turboprop. It's probably at 20,000 feet. I've done a lot more analysis on this if you want to check out on become a YouTube member or patron. All right. And you saw did you see the second? Here's the wingman here. So he's lining up for an attack run. And that's like, he's shooting guns at me. I'm jinking right now. If I see that, I'm going to guns jink. So he's totally gunning, practicing probably. And then, but he misses, actually overshoots. So if he misses on me as an F-16, man, that guy's toast, right? So you jink, you see all that overshoot? He's flying right in front of you. So I would guns jink and then look out in front, man. And then he would just be, I would shoot as much stuff as I have at him. At least a few bullets and the missiles. Okay, and you see here, that's a turboprop. It can fly higher than the normal Reaper and much faster. So I think that's what they're probably using when they're over the ocean, is this much larger thing. And so you notice here, you see that north thing. I think if you're looking from above, this is actually north. It's like a compass. I think that's how it's oriented. So I thought that was interesting. And again, you know, they'll show that video right away, right, with the flanker. They just show that. This is the same exact system. Okay, same exact system. Now they have coordinates, they have this bearing, and they have this weird WES thing that kind of worries me. But why wouldn't they share it? You know, why wouldn't they share that if they'll share a flanker? So there's nothing limiting them from sharing, right? I mean, I just showed you this video. This is the same sensor. Same thing, Reaper flying in the Persian Gulf, but they're not going to share it, right? Because it's not helping them show some narrative. Show some narrative. All right, so I hope you enjoyed those flying videos. Man, hour and 40 minutes. Woo! Hope you guys enjoyed it. Flanker's amazing. It's just a giant fighter, even much bigger than the F-15 even. Okay, everyone, Samsung 100 megapixel. Well, they have so much AI, right? They're integrating AI into everything. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks to Leslie for helping to moderate and for doing UAP Society. If you guys do have videos, okay, let me find the actual video. We are doing another contest. So this time is your UAP video. Okay, so I get a lot of emails saying, please come to look at my video, analyze my video. And to be honest, most of the videos are satellites. You know, when basically Starlink was launched, satellites that people caught in their IR kind of systems, they're not used to seeing all that stuff, or bugs. Okay, so please don't send us videos that are, you know, bugs. Runa, he basically was giving a hard time to the past guests I had, saying that they had bugs on there, you know, that they're actually videoing bugs. And he says that's not what they're doing up in Norway. But let me still find it there. Sorry, I was chatting. I lost it. And you guys are seeing all this, huh? Oh, I'm not sharing it. This is just on the Discord. Did you guys check out that meme video that I watched? The meme video we made. This is just working with the Discord. It's what it's like. Here, I have one more spot I want to go to look. And so what it is upload your video, whatever your UAP video is, upload it to YouTube. So just your channel, and put in hashtag UAP Society Contest in the actual name. And that will enter you automatically in the contest. The contest ends next month. Here, I'll show you here. So for DSci, basically real UAP video contest. So whatever your best video is, if you haven't taken it yet, even, you have until the end of February. And we're in a leap year, apparently. So send it before February 29. We'll call it midnight UTC on February 29th. And then, like we did last time, is the NFT holders for UAP Society will vote. And you'll at the least get your UAP video looked at by many people. It'll get analyzed, and you have a chance to win $100 in Ethereum. And Ethereum is going up, as well as we will give you a digital token, so one of our UAP's NFTs. So then you will get ad-free access to all these videos, and you'll be in the holders chat on the society, and you'll be able to vote on the next contest. So this is the idea of decentralized science. The idea is you guys are out there, you're the censors. You keep saying, look at my video, look at my video. Here it is, your chance. So we'll look at it for sure. We went through last time and did a 3-hour live stream, 3.5-hour live stream, going through all of the entrants, and we got a lot of interested parties. So basically what you do is you write UAP Society Contest, hashtag UAP Society Contest. Sorry, that should be on here. I didn't have time to make the edits. So hashtag UAP Society Contest, put that in the title and we can search for it on YouTube. Let us know also on the Discord. So come to Discord as well, UAP Society. But that's it, everyone. Any last questions? The crazy show. We explained plasma life, the argument for plasma life, according to Massimo Teodorani. I named probably too many scientists there, right? Everybody's saying, where is the evidence? Where is the evidence for all of this stuff? The point is, I just named 4 scientists there. You know, go listen to Donald Hoffman. Go listen to Bernardo Kastrup. Look at Unzicker. His stuff on the sun is quite interesting. And also look at Massimo Teodorani, right? These guys are scientists. Everyone I named there is actually a scientist. So evidence is out there and they are considering it. But the mainstream is just like, well, I guess we'll just have to keep maybe considering alternate theories, maybe considering alternate theories, maybe considering alternate theories. Interesting. UAPs, I think. And also, remember, we are all neural networks, right? You're only as smart as your neural network. So don't limit your options. If you limit the solution set, if philosophically we have decided that there cannot be any sort of life or intelligence in plasmas, then we're not going to look inside of the nearest option, which could be the sun. Watch, it's in the sun. That's what George Carlin said, right? It's like, worship the sun. So watch, I mean, so very exciting. I think this year for sure, I think we're going to see just a massive breakthroughs. JWST just keeps signing more and more things. They just keep looking through the data. Every time they look through the data, they get like more and more shocked. And I think they're also happy, but still shocked. And I don't know, so far nothing's really changed, but I think it will this year. And it could change as well as our understanding of the cosmos changes. Could also our understanding of the phenomena. Could also our understanding of consciousness, religions, being a human, living a honest, good life where all around this planet, I've traveled all around this planet and no one wants to go and just hurt someone else, right? Everyone's after the same things. They just want a good life for them and their grandkids. They want to watch their grandkids thrive and do well. And I want the same thing. Everywhere I've been on the planet, everyone wants that same thing. Everywhere I've been. And I've learned different languages and I've integrated with those people. And I think a real lack is people don't travel and don't go and realize that these people that you call an enemy are very similar. They are much more similar to you and me than a corporation or a nation state or a lobby. You are much more similar to the people you call your enemy than you are to any of these other systems that, by the way, have their own agendas, have their own intelligences that are organizing towards a certain goal. And again, that goal comes about through evolution. Those systems come about through evolution. That's why I've argued corporations actually live and die, just like everything else that we can see in our universe. Maybe it's the rest of the stars. I've argued as well the nations live and die. They have their own organizations and their own goals that do not necessarily coincide with humans. And I go back to nuclear weapons. Okay, no human on this planet, no sane human that I mentioned cares about happy, prosperous grandkids. No one would launch a nuclear weapon. Okay, that is obviously a tool of a different interdimensional being. The only one that would launch a nuclear weapon is a country, a nation state. That is what it would do. Maybe a corporation if they had the access, but really it's a nation state. That's not a human. Okay, so that is a group of human that emerged into something else. What I'm saying is now it's It's not what you can do for your government, right? That's what the saying was before. What can your government do? Ask not what your government can do for you. Ask what you can do for your government. And I think this is not the way of the future. And this is not the case. I think we should be asking, what can our governments do for us? Because governments need people at the end of the day. You will need humans. And now we know. I left the US because there was more prosperous somewhere else. You will get a brain drain. Humans can choose. And I chose to leave. And it's much nicer. I just watched the turmoil from across this big ocean. The same benefit that applied to America, you can use by leaving. I've done it. So but I get my pension from America. Man, I don't want, they're my biggest supporter. You talking about sponsors? Who really sponsors this channel? It's the US government. US government sponsors this channel, okay? With some money thrown on the top. And thanks to you guys, really. And use that money and I'll be going to Norway next month. So excited. All right, guys. The hashtag for the video contest. Yeah, let's put it here. Society contest. Yep, this is it, guys. So put UAP Society Contest in the title. Make it public so we can search for it, right? If it's private, it's not going to work. And this is decentralized science, right? Decentralized. We use the power of all of our sensors out there, all you guys. And maybe we'll do, what else we could do? Best experiencer story. That would also be, something like that. Or anyway, this decentralized science. And the idea is to leverage the power of our community, which is now over 6,000 people. If you notice, we have another YouTube channel called UAP Society, and they're releasing a bunch of content on their own. I think it's awesome. I support them and I help them out as best I can. So some good interviews coming on UAP Society. Ross Coulthard's coming on there. And I hope I got the time right. I need to find that. Portugal should be a member of NATO. As far as I remember, they have a NATO base here. I haven't heard of the 112 leak doc. I don't know if the human race is finished. I think we can still go. We're not in Oz anymore, says the human race is finished. Yeah, man, experience your story. So yeah, this next month will be UAP videos. But again, we have all these sensors out there. I think the anecdotal evidence is powerful. So maybe for March, we do experiencer stories. Share your experience or story. Maybe it could be, we can make it somehow anonymous even. But that's going to be really difficult. Thank you, Lady Bentley from the UK. Thank you for your super chat. Certainly appreciate it. Did I spell it wrong for contest? Okay. Yes, we need to evolve, not devolve. I think we can. I'm quite optimistic. Somebody needs to interview Massimo. Yes, he was busy to come. He had a birthday party tonight. He's released a lot of books. He's written 17 books, I believe, and a lot of papers. So he's, in English is his second language, actually. He's Italian. So I would read his theories. Well, what's funny is, and even you look at the recent wars, and you look at calls of genocide. I've made arguments again. If you go to my YouTube video, I have a private video talking about the current war, and I think the argument is genocide is the norm. If you look back in human history, we're like appalled and shocked by genocide from Hitler and the Nazis, and then calls of genocide. But genocide is actually the norm. If you go back and look through all of human history, the best example is Papua New Guinea. If you go to Papua New Guinea, the tribes of Papua New Guinea, they would just fight terrible violence, normal day-to-day issues. Once in a while, one tribe would just go and kill the other tribe. Again, it's out of fear. It's out of lack of knowledge. You don't know that they're not going to come and attack you. So you will go and attack them before. But if you know that they're not going to attack you, because do you consider them a friend, or why would they attack you? And you know this, and they know that you're not going to attack them, then actually you don't need all of that stuff. You don't need it. But in the past, human organizations, tribes, etc., that's how it works. It goes, and one group would just kill the other people. The problem is now the world is not letting whatever Israel annihilate all of the Palestinians, or at least hopefully we don't. But that is the normal state of nature. That's the state of nature. That's how nation states deal with it. Nation states drop nuclear weapons. Okay. So we keep blaming the people. It's the structure, it's the organization, the whole group. All right, guys. 152. Thanks for being here. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And thanks again for all the support. Thanks for being here. All right. Take care, everybody.